You ready for a fight?
Oh, you know I am. I am starving.
Good. They'll be here any... Wait. Can you eat them?
Yeah, they're delicious. It's Thanksgiving on the Earth plane. I thought we were celebrating Thanksgiving.
What do you mean it's Thanksgiving? Why would you eat something like that?
I have seen you eat them. What, have you become a vegan recently?
I would never eat that.
I saw you eating a turkey leg last week.
Yeah, of course. It's delicious.
You just said you never had it.
I never had Goblin. There's a horde of goblins coming. That's why I called you.
I thought you said you heard gobbling, like turkeys. Probably should have brought more than a knife and a fork then.
We're goblins. Look at us being goblins. We're goblins. Woo. Wow, we're goblins.
Ow, why do they have a knife?
We're not goblins.
Oh, it hurts. Why does it burn so much? Oh.
Gobble, gobble. I'm a goblin.
Cranko 10th Street Kingpin. For 200 ready, get a 1/2 legendary creature Goblin that says whenever Cranko 10th Street Kingpin attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Then create a number of 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens equal to Cranko's power.
This cranky old fart is probably my favorite commander of all time. It taps to get token value. What could be better? This crankshaft is a tool for getting more goblin than a turkey slaughterhouse, and it can be much more brutal too. You see, while this deck can pretty easily fold like a chair to a team effort of removal, it also runs through defenses like it's nobody's business. You get the best of both worlds here. You can spend a lot of time suiting up your favorite green goblin for the express purpose of total opponent death, swinging out and forcing your opponents to take actions against your mighty reign. And even though you tapped out the big dog, you'll still get a board full of disposable blocking lackeys. In this hype crowd the Crankmaster Supreme makes isn't just there for show either. Just like any goblin deck, they can die for a good cause, ours. So you should start by subscribing for a good cause, because Thanksgiving is here and a nice subscription goes a long way for this big ol' sack of skin. Why did I type that? So yeah, right down there. It's easy. Thank you. So what is the secret sauce to this Krabby Patty? Well, notice how the bowling pin's ability only cares about that power number and not about the counters. That's the key, and the way you get that is through some deviously devastating equipment.
Stoneforge Masterwork. For 1 mana, you get an artifact equipment that equips for 2, and says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it.
Uh-oh, he's huge. This Masterwork of the Stone is one of the pricier cards on this list, but considering it's only $2.19 and the deck still only costs around $28, I'll let it slide. This time. What this does for us is a little tricky. We get to swing in with the cranky and ultimately take immediate advantage of the fact that we are getting a ton of goblins. So if we start with the cramps out and 1 other goblin, and we already have this equipped and we swing, we're gonna create 3 goblins from Commando Cranko's ability. That's because we're just cool like that, and we get another +3/+3 from our commander to play with, making it a 6/7 and pretty scary to those who wish to harm us. You can get a similar effect from Pen and Blade and Crown of Gondor, except this one's mana and equip cost are fair, so that kinda sucks. Gondor at least can be one to equip, but you have to become and remain the monarch, so unless that's the case, you're kinda stuck with paying 4 mana. But hey, Sigil of Valor still exists. It's always one to equip. Make sure that this 10-man swings in alone though, otherwise you will be in for a rude awakening, like when I address the audience directly. I'm looking at you. Yeah, you right now, sitting at the screen. Yes, I'm looking at you. I know what you're asking. What about the boots? Yeah, I said yes to the boots and no to the greaves. That's solely due to the price of them. Most slightly invested commander players would already have a copy of the good old LG, so just go ahead and put it in place of another haste granting equipment if you'd like. The boots of speed and crystal slipper both grant a buff to Tintin's power, so you just kind of have to pick your favorite child and then get rid of the other.
Dad, which one of us is your favorite?
Easy. You. Jimmy's my favorite.
But I thought you were supposed to say that we're both your favorite.
No, it was pretty easy. You suck. Jimmy's awesome. Love it, Jimmy. These things get some great incremental value, but we also have some pretty serious and immediate buffs regardless of the goblin count. Grafted War Gear opens your commander up to removal from artifact hate, but don't tell your enemies that, they can smell weakness. It, however, is a free equip cost to get +3/+2 to our commander. Hero's Blade is fun when you get this on turn 2. That way when you cast Cranko on turn 3, it just attaches to it. Not to mention, the Iron Crag also does something with ETB. If you want, you can keep this rock forever young and always have it just tap for mana. But when in a pickle, you can pick to let it come an equipple. Pickle puns. And finally, from the equipment that boosts power, we can talk about the hoarding of material wealth. That is, these 4 artifacts. Bearded Axe, Golem Skin Gauntlets, Nettle Cyst, and Thran Power Suit. All of these snowball in a different way, either by just having artifacts and enchantments, or vehicles, or by counting the equipped equipment. Unlike the creatures that get wiped out by most decks, the only thing stopping this game plan would be a Vandal Blast, or a really motivated green player. That being said, those colors are now heal on sight for this exact reason. To be fair, this deck has like 33 artifacts in it, and I couldn't be bothered to focus on artifact recursion or protection, so you know what? I'm just going to ignore that glaring problem, say it's a budget deck, and sell it as a feature. That is a lot of the things that make our commander get like so much bigger. Then when Commandy Cranky gets all those creatures out, we get to sit back guilt-free for a turn cycle, watching as our opponents scramble to find an answer to your shenanigans. Hopefully, not literally shenanigans. That would absolutely suck. So, at this point, you would have a board full of goblin turkeys waiting to be fed with some greedy little grinders. Question is, what's the best way to go about that? Normally I would go into another section, but I am gonna do something that I really haven't done before. I actually wanted to postpone the section about like the big reveal of the major game plan that makes this deck even more terrifying to go against. In lieu of that, I am going to be doing Cody's Creative Corner. Here I'm gonna talk about the cards that I just really like, that I don't have a category for in the grand scheme of things. But I wrote this script at 1 a.m. and can't be bothered to come up with a more clever way of naming these cards. I could call them my power picks.
Blinding Powder. For 1 mana, you get an artifact equipment with Equip 2 that says equipped creature has unattached Blinding Powder. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to this creature this turn.
I need to spend more time just being cool. Anyway, what makes this card special is the fact that when the Hammer of Justice eventually swings upon you in the later game, odds are people will have a much more developed board state than you will. In this biz, we call that unfortunate. But where one may see that and think, man, I can't swing in and get goblins anymore. I really think, man, I can swing in and get goblins anymore. I'm gonna stab you. This is also better with Goblin Chirurgeon, or as I like to call it, Goblin Surgeon. All it takes is 2 goblins, and a board wipe doesn't really do much to us. You will still have Cranko and the Surgeon, or Chirurgeon. Again, I've been calling it Surgeon since I've ever seen it. You will still have Cranko and the Surgeon, so they won't be able to stop you. The better part is you can still do this as much as you want, and you get free swings in with Cranko. So a board wipe will usually only have the number of goblins that you have rather than reset you. Unless the board wipe is Damnation, and then that normally little dumb line of text actually becomes extremely relevant. We're also running Fiery Mantle and Draconic Destiny here. That is important because they were also in the last video I made. So, if you're cool, you've already added that to the queue, or as I like to call it, the QA way. But what really turns this into a haha funny is Stark Prospector, the real reason I wanted to do this section. I only put 11 creatures in this deck. This is my favorite goblin. It is exactly what I love about goblins. It just, you know what? I'm just gonna give it its own splash cutaway. Everything, you know what? Yeah.
Ooh, Skirk Prospector. For 1 red, you get a 1/1 creature goblin that says sacrifice a goblin, add a red.
Deep beneath the ruined continent of Ottaria, there's a mine where goblins still work, ignorant of the destruction above.
I love him. Those fire-breathing enchantments now let us do the same thing that Stoneforge Masterwork is doing, getting to take advantage of all of those goblins existing to boost the power and get more of them. Slate of Ancestry is also there. It's a great way to draw all of your deck, but that's not even how we plan to get our card advantage. That will be for things like Embrace the Unknown. This impulse draws the next 2 of your library. That's what we call this type of effect. It's based on Act on Impulse. That's what I believe, at least. I don't know if it's actually based on Act on Impulse, but we can figure it out. Why do we keep having us come in like this? They're gonna be great forever. While this type of effect is super chill, 2 thumbs up, it has Retrace, placing it firmly into the realm of godly in the late game. It turns that other 36 cards we have that normally become late game duds into actual card advantage. And the thing that makes people deader than dead, sharing the love of all the equipment that we got with Dragon Throne of Tarkir. Time for the fanboys to shine. The street goblin we hold so dear will actually sit this brawl out. The throne is where he belongs. Based on his power, he grants the colossal buff, and trample to boot. That's a great game finisher, and actually really one of the cards of all time. But what is the normal game plan? There really isn't much value in just watching one large fella swing wildly at imaginary chump blockers while generating a labor force of expendable goblins. So what greases these wheels, so to speak? Lava. It's lava in our Molten Gatekeeper.
Molten Gatekeeper. For 2 and 2 ready, get a 2/3 artifact creature Golem that says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Molten Gatekeeper deals 1 damage to each opponent. It also has Unearth for a red, meaning you can pay a red and return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. It'll gain haste, but you'll have to exile at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield. You can unearth only as a sorcerer.
We run a ton of effects that let us get this ball rolling every time the commander swings in. Not only do they get to face the brunt of a massive greedy gobbo coming in at them every combat, they then have to deal with the fact that each time the 10 tweet turns tideways, we take a chunk of their life and they can't swing back in response because we gummed up the board with a bunch of goblins by doing it. And if this card ends up in the graveyard for whatever means, we still get to unearth it for a turn if we really wanted to. That way we can surprise our opponents with the final hurrah of damage. Witty Roastmaster does this as well, but it does it while being a 3/2 and without unearth. Kinda lame. Impact Tremors is the effect that you'll most likely know of. 1 damage to each opponent every time a creature enters. Fortunately, it is in here. We also run Warstorm Surge, so we can choose to remove some spicy targets with direct damage, even if those targets happen to be the faces of the ones we truly tolerate. Goblin Bombardment is in here. We can take the Goblin's power and trade it in for some totally above board direct damage. Don't worry, I cleared it with Marky Mark Rosewater. He is cool with it. This also pairs finally with the Outpost Siege and Pashalik Mons. Not only do we get something when we sacrifice them, or if we get those other things that like when they enter, but we're also going to double up the value of things like Goblin Bombardment with these. It is targeted, but you can truly take over the game just by threatening face with these things. And since Goblin decks like to sacrifice goblins above all else, you will find plenty of ways to kill these little things. And there are plenty of cards I didn't mention, but if you do have a card idea, you should check out that deck list in the description. It's also a Discord link. It's free. We are waiting for you. Yes, you. Again, I'm talking to you. Why aren't you in there? Hey, worst comes to worst, if you feel like it's a little bit awkward, you can just kind of hang around and see us chat and join in whenever you like. And to add to the thanks I should be giving, let's go thank some members.
And the Joke Tier members get a special shout out because they're really cool. Like Picard 001, who cooked the turkey all the way through by just slapping it. It was the best turkey I've ever had. And a higher power thank you to Jennifer Griffith, Devin Spooner, Filthy Casual, Ezelvor, A-Train, and Angela Ryder. I truly cannot do this without all your support, so fittingly, have a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you.